Nikki Star, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do something that I've seen on Drinking by My Shelf's channel, where she reads through the first chapters of books to determine whether or not she's going to continue with them. If you saw my prep-arch, my preparation before Camp NaNoWriMo, you'll know that I said in that video we are potentially looking at moving soon. So part of that is I'm trying to declutter through some of the physical stuff I have. So what I've got with me today is a selection of books, all of which I bought years ago and I still haven't got around to reading. So what we're going to do is read through the first chapters of each one and then determine whether or not I want to continue on with that book and therefore keep it and move it with us, or whether it's going to be donated before I go. First book is The War of the Roses. This is the first one in the Stormbird, I think it's a whole series of them, or The War of the Roses I think might be the series name, and this is Stormbird. I'm not 100% sure. It is kind of Plantagenet based, which I had quite the phase of when the TV show The White Queen came out, and I went through a lot of Philippa Gregory books about the same kind of time period. So I never walked away from a book like this. It looks like it's Henry VI, which I think is the king that gets into power before the War of the Roses start, and then I think the York brothers, if I'm wrong, I'm probably very wrong, it's been a while since I was really into all of this. I think the York brothers then kind of take over and there's a lot of back and forth for a while, and then it ends up with Edward on the throne for a significant period of time. So I'm going to read the first chapter of this and we're going to see whether I gel with the kind of writing and the narrative, and then see if I want to keep it or whether this goes into the donate pile. So I was just going to start doing this, but it has a selection of maps and family trees, which makes my little nerd heart very happy. Royal family tree in there. There are 4 different family trees in here, and a list of characters. This is the kind of thing that, oh god, there's 5 pages of a character list. I usually really like things with like maps and intricate worlds and stuff like that, but usually the more characters I have in a book, the more likely I am to just lose track of what's happening. So I have a reference list, but this might be maybe a little bit too much for me if this book has that many characters in it for 5 pages, but we shall see. Okay, it has a prologue, which I'm going to count as the first chapter, because as far as I'm concerned, a prologue should hook me just as much as the first chapter should, but I might do a little bit of chapter 1 just in case the writing style changes. So let's give this a go. Okay, so I went for the prologue and I did a little bit of chapter 1 just to see if it was still in the same kind of like voice and narrative and stuff and like point of view. I'm probably going to continue this. As I said, I quite like a bit of English royal history. It was something I was very, very interested in a few years ago, which means this might kick off a whole nother period of time, but we'll deal with that later. So I think I'm going to carry on with it. It's not the most compelling I've read, but it's not uninteresting. And it's written in a way that's pretty well paced, so I can probably get through it even if I don't necessarily click with it. So I'm gonna give it some more time and continue with it at some point. It's gonna move with me, at least. That's the pile. The next thing we have is this is Invasion 1940. So this, I believe that this is non-fiction, just specifically about the Battle of Britain. Got very UK centric books here, I apologise, but I bought most of these when I was in uni, when I decided for the first time close to a decade ago that I was going to try and read 50 books in a year, and I only managed that last year. So a lot of these books have been in my collection for a long time, and I just picked them up at a supermarket that was near my uni that had a habit of doing like £1 books. Yeah, one of the later ones has got that kind of £1 sticker on it. So I just used to pick up whatever was like on sale or cheap in the area, and I've ended up with a lot of random different variations of books rather than specifically going for things I wanted to read at the time. I'm going to be very, very honest. I don't tend to read historical non-fiction. If I go for non-fiction these days, it's mostly biographies or kind of self-improvement books. I haven't done a historical non-fiction in a very long time. This is probably the one that I'm thinking is most likely to not continue with me, just because I tend to find them quite dry, but we'll give it a go and we'll see what happens. didn't get all the way through the chapter, so that's not a good sign. Before my brain massively wandered off and I was looking over the words but not paying attention to them. I think this would be a great book for people with a lot more interest specifically in history books. I don't know, for me this is a bit too modern history for me to... I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say, so let me try this again. I did a GCSE in kind of modern war history between World War I and World War II. So I have a lot of that kind of ingrained in my head, but I don't know if it's because I did it in school and it's been less interesting to me since. It's not that I don't find this interesting, it's just that I don't like the way it's being worded. It feels very dry, very academic to me, but I could definitely see this being very interesting to someone with a lot more interest in that, or a lot more experience with historical non-fiction books, because it's talking about like looking at both the actual what we know happened and kind of like the myths that have popped up around these particular events and the different things that happened in that year. I don't think I'm going to be continuing with it. I will check with my partner that it shouldn't move with us for someone else to read, but I don't think I will continue with this. We have a theme. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I haven't read the blurb for this for a while, but I'm pretty sure this is Royal Kings again. I don't know if they're real or fictional. This is Saxon. So this is Alfred, which when was Alfred? Oh, we once again have maps and stuff. I'm just looking for an idea of date. We are looking at 800s for this particular setting, so completely different from the last two I've read for the historical context. Okay, so I think from the blurb what this is there's a particular, the main character, I'm not going to try and pronounce, I apologise, is the son of the king currently who is passing away, and he's trying to work out whether he's going to take on that mantle. I think. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, the first chapter of this is 32 pages long, and I would like to try and get something else done this morning than just this video, so we're probably not going to do the full chapter, but we are going to try and give this a good old try and see how I feel. I've heard good things about Bernard Cornwell, and we do have another book by him in the house, which is my partner's, so I'm trying not to let it bias me, because of the books I've got here, the 5 of them, 3 of them are completely unknown authors to me, which is the 2 we've already looked through, and the next one's going to be after this. Whereas I do kind of know this name, which implies to me there's obviously this implicit bias in my brain that means that they're a better writer because I've seen the name more, which is not necessarily true, and I'm going to try to ignore that while I read a little bit of this first chapter. Okay, I did a few pages in. I'm going to keep this and I'm going to read this through. It's very rare that I read a book and I actually kind of, not laugh, but do that kind of little exhale thing. There's some humour in this, and it's written with like quite a flowing prose. Like, it doesn't feel too historical. He's not playing up to it. I'm gonna get a little bit confused, I think, because if I look at the map at the beginning, it's got, I don't know if you're going to see, very, very old place names, and it does have a translation kind of area where it kind of goes through what the names were and what they are now. I'm probably going to find myself getting a little confused about what the places mean. What they were just talking about was Cent, or I'm assuming it's pronounced Kent, which was C-E-N-T, which is the area I live, but they're obviously referring to it different. This is the old name for Canterbury, but I'm going to get myself confused with what I assume is old Celtic names. But I thoroughly enjoyed the few pages I read of that. I think I'm going to enjoy the rest of it, so we're keeping that one. There is definitely a theme here. It probably speaks to me in my uni years and what I was interested in at the time. This is about the Salem witch trials, I think. So we're getting back into historical stuff, but I think this is fiction. I don't know if it's playing up the witch angle in that it's actually witches, or whether it's one of those where it's just looking at the hysteria of people at the time. This is one of the ones that I got real cheap, and again, it's one I don't know the writer of. I've not heard of Francis Hill before. Again, we have a fairly lengthy first chapter, so I might not get the whole way through it, but I'm gonna give this a good old go and see how we feel about this. Again, I did a fair few pages, not the full first chapter. I'm not convinced this is for me. I think it's in the way things are being described and the kind of more lengthy, more poetic sentences, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, for me, I prefer things to be quite fast paced, and while a lot happened in those first few pages, I don't think the writing worked as well in my brain to portray it all. It's obviously setting up the scene a lot, but I'm not convinced it's for me. So I think this one is going to go in the not continuing pile. But let me know in the comments if you've read this and think I should change my mind, because I could possibly be convinced back to it. It's a lot more my style than the historical non-fiction one from earlier, but I just don't think I'm going to click with this writing, and therefore I won't get through the full book, even if it's quite a short one. That's going to go in the donate pile. And we have ourselves the 5th and final book that we're going to look at today, and this is The Word is Murder by Anthony Horowitz. I have read a couple of Anthony Horowitz books, but mostly his YA non-fiction, or like, I think it was maybe middle grade. I can't remember what it was called. I think it might be like something like The Power of Five. But he did do like a young adult middle grade area. I'm not quite sure what it was classified as because I was a small child and I wasn't paying attention to genres. And I read at least the first book of that and really enjoyed it. And I think, I will fact check myself, I think he might have done the Stormbreaker books, the Alex Rider book. And I think this is more of his adult stuff. It's like a proper murder book. And I, again, have gone through phases of true crime books. As you'll probably know if you have been on this channel for a while, I watch a lot of things like Criminal Minds, and I worked my way through Bones during a lot of the early parts of the pandemic. And I've also read a couple of the books that the Bones TV show was based off, and I really, really enjoyed them. They're Kathy Reich's books, I think. So I read through quite a few of those. I bought those when I was probably 13, 14, and around about the time I was really interested in the TV show and the book was when I was considering going into that kind of field of forensics. So there is a special place in my heart for well-written proper crime books. What we've got here is like a detective and apparently a reluctant sidekick, which sounds like it could be very interesting. And if I remember correctly, I gelled quite well with Anthony's writing style in his younger books. So again, let's give this a go. How long is your first chapter? Okay, that's not too long. I might be able to get through all of this time, but let's give this a go. I didn't get through all the chapter, but I don't think I need to. I'm keeping this one too. So this starts off, I don't know if I want to spoil it. I know it's only a few pages, but this just gripped me. I don't know how else to say it. This is written in the kind of style that I can read very quickly, which means I'll get through it quite quickly, and that means I'll probably retain a lot more of it. I like the tone of it, and even the first few pages, like reading through the first characters' interactions and then what that means for the rest of the plot is interesting, very interesting. So this is staying too. Of the 5 books, what we have is 3 that I am keeping hold of. So these 3 here. So we've got The War of the Roses, The Death of Kings, and The Word is Murder. My phone that I'm filming on does the thing where it mirrors it, so I have no idea what this is written. And then we are going to donate or move on the Invasion 1940 book and Deliverance from Evil. I've kept the bigger books, which is probably not the point of this because I'm trying to reduce space, but I at least know that these 2 aren't going to gel with me as much. So do let me know in the comments if you think I've made any wrong decisions, if these are books that you have read at all and you have any kind of recommendation on keeping either of these books, or if any of these books are more disappointing. I will maybe do this again. I enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed watching this too, or if you're interested in me doing any more book related content, because I like reading related content because I tend to do just more writing. All of that being said, thank you so much for watching. I've been Nikki Starr and I will see you in the next one.